Hi everyone, I'm your host Vikram Jain, CTO of Galaxy Weblinks, a leading IT consulting firm that leverages emerging technologies to help businesses scale sustainably. Welcome to the Galaxy Startup Podcast. In today's episode, we are going to talk about one of the most crucial yet overlooked aspect of tech solution, design thinking. Whether it be designing a revenue model or designing new capabilities, you will get new perspective on this key aspect. Even Steve Jobs was able to create a powerful foundation for Apple not with his technical competency but by his radical design thinking. Today, we have the privilege of hosting a true luminary in the field with more than 2 decades of experience as UX evangelist and design author. Our guest is deeply committed to unraveling the profound impact of design on people. He's known for skillfully bridging gaps between design, engineering, and business. He brings a unique perspective to the table. Additionally, as the host of entertaining podcast UX Banter, he engages in insightful discussion with design leaders. So join us to explore the world of design with visionary. He is the director of user experience at Galaxy Weblinks, Dushyant Kanungo. Welcome, Dushyant.
Thank you very much, Vikram, for welcoming me and having me as a guest on your podcast.
We are really excited to learn more about design thinking. So why don't we just start off with understanding what exactly is design thinking, Dushyant?
So, by the definition by Jakob Nelson, the design thinking itself is a solution oriented approach to solve any problem that you have. So, in theory, you are not just mulling over the problem itself, but just trying to identify as a whole, as a group, that what could be the possible solution that can be provided to any given problem that you have.
Amazing. And how can this design thinking approach be of huge help to startups? This podcast is specifically targeted for understanding what are the challenges, problems that most of the startup owners are having. As you know by the name Galaxy Startup Clinic. So people here are expected to learn more about the challenges and problems that these startup founders are gonna have.
Sure. I think one of the big best things about the startup industry today is that everybody is trying to solve a very unique problem. And while they're trying to solve unique problems, each startup may have problems which are very unique to themselves. It cannot be just one size fits all approach that you can actually apply and say, this is the way the startup should go and mold. But there are common themes that we have negotiated in the past where the problem solving methods have to come from all the people who are involved in the larger scheme of things as the product is concerned or the project is concerned. So just giving you an example, which is one of the most common situations that we run into, is the startup founder or a person who is just starting out their journey as an entrepreneur. They may have the best of the skill set in terms of coding or programming, or they know in and out about the tech they're dealing with, or maybe the industry they belong to. They have all the ideas about how it will function. But when it comes to the idea about the monetization of the entire application, that is where they may not think more on the lines of that how it is going to generate the revenue. It could be an adware based solution. It could be a freemium solution where certain parts are free and then you have to pay for certain features to be used. Or is it going to be a subscription model? Will it be a licensing model? So the entire user experience shifts from what sort of plan you are using at the moment. And there could be the management side of things that you have to tackle, and those are the smaller bits that people generally don't think much about. And many a times we have to gather everybody in the room, so it is not just the person who has the idea, but you also need to talk to the marketing people that what best they can actually sell. We need to talk to the current investors, if they have any, about how they see this platform growing. We need to do the market research and see what other people are doing. But together, when the sales, marketing, business and the product owners themselves, when they walk into the room, and then they have to decide that how they are going to scale this product in terms of the client revenue, that is where the bigger picture emerges.
That's amazing. So, I totally agree with you. A lot of startup owners will have idea. I mean, they would know what they want to do, but maybe they miss out on this very important aspect of identifying what exactly is going to be their revenue model.
I think one thing which we recently did for a startup in New York was they the idea the startup founder had was that okay, we are going to list it on the market, and that is how we are going to generate. But how you justify the value of your product itself, that's going to be a question. Same thing happened with a Silicon Valley startup, where their idea was that okay, we are going to just generate the funding, and that would be the end of it. But anybody who is willing to put in money into your business, they have to know that what sort of projections you are bringing into the fold. And design thinking is a place where they can all mull out the ideas about the quantification of the solution, the quantification of the users they are going to deal with, and how the overall solution is going to impact, or what could be the value addition to anybody who is going to pay for their services can be justified.
So, can you tell us a little more about the example that you're mentioning, like how you actually help the startup which was not having a proper revenue model identified when they came to you. So, how did you apply the techniques of design thinking and help them get to a revenue model, which later on I hope would have resulted in a great success for them?
So, design thinking is basically a workshop that is generally conducted as a part of the process within the organization. So, it may be just a design solution you are looking for, or a feature solution you're looking for. It doesn't matter the size of your organization. Even Google uses design thinking, but they have the sprints which are about a week long. Generally, the design thinking workshop can be, say, a 3 hour workshop where everything can be, done together. So the most important part is bringing in the thoughts which are out of the box, as the cliche goes, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It is the most common denominator, and what is the most feasible thing to do is, justifiably agreeing among the organization or the people who are coming in from different departments to talk more about it. So, say for example, in this case, where they have to define that what sort of business model we are going to present, or how the customers are going to pay. So, in the workshop like situation, we bring in all the people from different walks of the business, not life, because these are all the people who have something to say. They are the stakeholders. And then we talk about what could be a possible solution to any given problem. So it could land from, right from the top that okay, we are going to have an advertisement in Super Bowl game to promote our business, which may not be feasible because the company might not have the amount of money to do that. But it is a solution that can be looked into. So you can list out all the possibilities of how you can actually promote your product.
Awesome.
And then you pick and choose that what is the most feasible way of going about it, given all the resources that you have at hand, or for the user.
So, what I understood from the process, the way you explained, it is going to help startup owners get everybody, all the stakeholders aligned to a decision which is feasible to solve the problem, like the way you were explaining about the problem of having a proper revenue model.
Finding a balance is what this exercise does. It just not provide you the end, you know, the path on which you are going to walk, but it also does so by making sure it is an inclusive decision of the business rather than somebody's overnight uh, just brainwave.
So, is that the most commonly used application for design thinking, or is it applied for other, problems that startups may face?
Um, so generally, the bigger problem here is that every single time you get a problem to solve as a leader in the industry or as an entrepreneur, you go by your own instincts. And it may or may not work in the real world, but you are so convinced by your own thought process that you want to implement it. But once if you are just going by it, it could be the case that you may be wrong, and it's really hard for people to digest that they were wrong and there was a wrong business decision that was made. So many a times people want to try it out and see what other people are actually thinking right before they jump in or pull the trigger, so to say. So I think whichever problem you are targeting, if you have that consent, if you have that third party perspective, I mean, for example, as designers, we have seen bunch of websites and mobile apps in the world, and we have created bunch of those as well. So it always takes a designer into a zone where they do what they know, and what you don't know, and that is how the data works. Whenever you are doing evidence-based design, you have to understand that any data point that you can include in your final user experience journey is a plus. I mean, Don Norman also recommends the same, that any data is good data. You cannot run away from it. And if you have that sort of people who you can actually bring into the room, and everybody who has the same goal as you to make sure your product becomes a success, then I don't think there is any harm to not listen to what people have to say. And when their perspective about what you are going to make or what you are building, if it is aligned, then that is when you get a winning product.
So the founder, the owner may have a vision, but you still need the entire team to come through, follow the kind of activities process that you are calling as design thinking to be able to come up with products like Apple. That is truly amazing, Dushyant.
I mean, let's go back to the one thing that you said about Apple, that Steve Jobs example that you gave. It wasn't just about him who was designing the products, it was the lead designer on their team who did everything. Sorry, I'm just forgetting his name. He was a brilliant designer and he just recently retired from Apple. And the entirety of the solution came from the fact that it was hard work for many designers, many design engineers, many product owners to come up with the final solutions to what was delivered to the end user as an experience.
So, I mean, one of the most common challenge that I have experienced while interacting with a lot of startup owners in their early stages, they are not sure about what would constitute as a good MVP. What should be the scope for MVP? So is design thinking something that you have used in the past, helping other startup owners or founders in defining the scope of MVP for their product?
Um, so that definition will be different from product to product. So if you are, say, if you are delivering a food delivery app, for example, but you have to think about that it has to have all the components involved as part of the MVP. It should have that backend management system where the restaurants can actually add their menus, you can onboard people, you can onboard the delivery person, you can onboard the restaurants, and also all the food safety guidelines and everything. Because the frills, which are, say, a premium pass for certain time, or the coupon codes and everything that can wait, because the first job for your product is one should be able to, as a user, can go online, can find the food, order the food, and somebody to pick up the food and deliver to you. So there are very large moving parts that you have to take care, and they are the MVPs which are required, because the information has to pass, and information has to come from somewhere, and it has to go somewhere. Once that initial framework is completed, then you can think about that what other offers that you can add. There could be featured restaurants, there could be premium restaurants, that all can follow after your core functionality is completed. So identifying that MVP just remains about that, the first idea that you had, that what does your product do, and if it is doing that thing right, then that is your MVP. It doesn't have to have additional features which are far beyond the working or releasable product that you are dealing. It may not need to have those extra revenue making mechanisms, because that can follow, but it has to complete the core functionality for which it was designed for.
Cool. So
So with design thinking, this is where all the parties involved, from all the business units, they have to agree that this is going to be our MVP. These are the features which without which the product cannot be completed or released. You may actually want to generate reports manually earlier in the days, but later on you might want to do the automation and the dashboard and the say CRM, or the ticketing system that you want to include maybe. So those things can wait, but first the product can go. So the agreement has to come from all the parties involved, that this is where we are going to put our money initially. This is the stage by which we are actually defining a roadmap. So those ideas, if you are bringing in people and deciding that phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or the alpha release should have the MVP, and the beta version will have the bug free version of the same, and in the phase 3 we are going to include certain additional features. So this also gives you the entire vision of the product in terms of how scalability is going to be incorporated into the product mechanism.
So, for example, there is a startup owner coming to me with certain set of requirements. He is probably not having a revenue model identified. He is not even clear about the MVP. And I want to introduce him to you for conducting the design thinking workshop, as you were saying.
Mhm.
How much would it cost in terms of time, effort, and money? And what would be the biggest advantage that that startup owner will be getting by going through the workshop that you are recommending to conduct versus trying to do things on his own?
So it depends upon the problem that you're dealing with and number of participants. I believe that if you have more participants, it's better because you can put them into the groups, so the agreements can be tackled in. Generally, a design workshop may have 6 to 8 to 20 people. I mean, it's scalable, so that's a good thing about it. And generally, we did a workshop with a shoemaker company in London, and we all went to this particular place where everybody just got in together. First, everybody just wrote down the problems that they have with their application. It was Clark's was the client for the shoemaker that we were dealing with at that time. So when we all they put out the problems, it was identified that the biggest challenge they were facing is about the time it was taking from the product line to get the visibility of where the product was going. So if somebody like a startup owner who has the idea, they want to make sure that they want to go to the MVP stage, they need to identify the problems that they are facing at the moment and what is stopping them from doing that. Second problem that we are going to solve is identify those problems and then take them through that what could be the probable solutions for these problems. And then we will ask them to identify the competition if they can. Main process about designing and doing the competitor analysis will follow, but certain hints and ideas about making sure that entire team understands the challenges, the probable solutions, the market challenges about the competition that they are facing, and they are laid out. So once they know this is the situation, now they can come up with the solution of the ideas. So generally, a workshop could take about, as I said, about 3 hours to the entire process, as it takes at Google about a week. So 5 days is what they actually take from end to end, creating or following the process. So it is about ideating, then finding a solution, then prototyping it, and then testing it out among themselves. So this is where you first think about that what is the brainstorming happening when the solutions are coming in and you are ideating about it, to the point when you are the ideas are converted into, say, a low level prototype or a wireframe, that this is how we feel the solution should be. And then you test it among yourself, that whether this is on point or not. And if not, then you go back to. So this can be an agile process in which you are doing the same exercise over and over. But first, the requirements are frozen. You know that these are the what things that people want to do. That is when the cycle actually completes. So depending upon the size of the problems, we do conduct these workshops. So generally speaking, about 3 to 6 hours is the ideal time frame for the workshop to be conducted, where the documentation can be done about where the product is headed. And costing wise, again, as I said, it depends upon the number of people who are joining in, and whether it is going to be an in-person workshop or we are doing it over remotely is also possible to do these exercises. um, And the more so about the timing, that how much time it will take overall to the company, it depends upon how many people you have are present to go about their ideas and number of teams that you have.
So I was about to ask if these workshops can only be conducted in person. You already mentioned that these are, I mean, we can probably conduct those workshops remote as well. Especially after pandemic, people have started working with distributed teams. Everybody is, working either from their homes, or sometimes people are going to offices. Cool. So, if is this something that you do on a regular basis, or this is more or less, on need basis, you are trying to just conduct workshops? Have you conducted these kind of workshops in organizations as well?
I did conduct one with HP remotely. So I know that there are tools and solutions which are possible to do so. We have conducted these workshops in our organization as well, because there are products which the client has, have the requirement. Now we have to design it. Now, how do we go about designing a particular feature or a module? So internally, we also do that to present a couple of solution to the clients. So it is something which is done, I think, on the regular basis internally. But most importantly, anytime whenever there is a um, client who knows that the value of a workshop that can be presented, it is always a pleasure to go about it, and I think it adds a lot of value, and everybody gets on the same page about the requirements, and it helps in when you are doing the development as well, because then there are lesser bugs, the requirement is more detailed, and everybody is, when you are coding it, it is scalable, and you know what is coming in the future. So it's always has that benefit of cost in the longer run.
Amazing, amazing. So the biggest advantage that I could at least get out of that discussion from a startup owner's perspective would be having all these things ironed out, having everybody aligned. That should save a lot of rework or conflicts that may happen in the later stages if you are able to get everybody aligned and proper outcomes are published to everybody, and then they get into implementation. That is an amazing way to solve problem. That is an amazing way to work, especially in a startup environment where you're already having limitations with respect to time and budget. You need to get to the market with limited amount of time and budget. So yeah, I mean, this definitely sounds like something that almost all startup founders should probably reach out to you or somebody else who can probably help them with these kind of workshops.
Sure. I think there is one more beauty about this, that every single time you meet a startup founder, they either go into the technicalities of how their product is going to be amazing or talk in a very visionary sense of things. But when they turn up to seek funding, or whenever they are preparing an elevator pitch, the person who has the money is always going to poke holes in your theory. They are going to ask you such random questions that you may not have, thought about before. But a design thinking workshop is a place where you let your own team poke hole at your theory. So you
Wow.
get prepared about that, what your idea is and how it is going to work out. Because every single time an idea is presented, then the team who is sitting, they are going to, ask like, why is this happening? And why do you think that your idea is better than what the others are recommending here? So this gives you the confidence that how you are going to be presenting your product in the elevator pitch, or maybe talking to any potential investor, that why you have the best solution than the competition. And that way you are not just, ready for the market, not ready for just for the product, but also for the future. The confidence that you build in your team, among your own team about the idea, but in yourself as well, that yes, I can tackle this, I got the handle on the scene here.
That is so amazing, because this is yet another thing that every startup owner is looking to get, some sort of assurance. If there could be anything that can be done that ensures that I'll be able to secure funding when I go to investors, I mean, nothing can beat that advantage. So thank you for sharing that. If anybody, if any of our listeners or viewers who might be, interested in connecting with you, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
So the best way to reach me is on LinkedIn, but you can email me, dushyant@galaxyweblinks.com. And yeah, I will respond. And I do have a podcast called UX Banter, where I talk to the world level designers, and I have we are in the fourth season now, and a lot of guests that we have had, we all talk about a lot about the enterprise and the startup and the design systems and the culture that goes into the design industry. So it benefits, and in many ways, not just to the listeners, but personally to me as well. So I think that is sort of a fun that we try to capture.
Well, that brings us to the end of our first episode. Thank you so much for sharing such valuable insights, Dushyant. It was lovely talking to you. It was really pleasure having you as a guest in the very first episode of this Galaxy Startup Clinic podcast. We are really happy and excited for more challenges to be discussed in the upcoming episodes. Thank
I
you.
would like to say thank you, Vikram, for having me on the show, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be the first guest here. So have a wonderful day to you as well.
Thank you, Dushyant. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
So thank you so much to all my viewers and listeners. Stay tuned for more amazing discussions related to startup problems and challenges.